hibachi, got the gravy on the rice. Rolling in Mexico like a paradise.
Pittsburgh Steeler fans, welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Q&A podcast here on a Sunday night. Man alive, we are getting close to the start of training camp. This is the last show before training camp rolls in for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who report on Wednesday of this coming week. It's getting exciting, and here soon we're going to have some Steeler football once again, and I could not be more excited. I could not be more ready for this preseason and regular season to get rolling. But first, we got to get through training camp, and we're going to have a lot of fun chatting about that, getting through the discourse about what's happening during the Steelers run up to the regular season. And for those who've been following closely this offseason, it has been nothing short of an adventure. It's been nothing short of exciting for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Whether you like all the moves or not, moves are being made, baby. And the Pittsburgh Steelers have been active, maybe more active than just about anybody when it comes to signings, trades, acquisitions and retentions, extensions, all those good things, all the engines. The Steelers are living in the spotlight, and I could not be more here for it. I'm super excited and pumped to see it continue. As always, this show, just to get some housekeeping out of the way, the show is a part of the Steel Curtain Network and Fans First Sports. If you have not liked and subscribed to our YouTube channels, do so. We are growing as a brand and as a platform and as a community, and we appreciate all of you who make this possible. We're just a bunch of guys and gals out here voicing our thoughts on the Pittsburgh Steelers and NFL football and everything in between, and without you guys, it wouldn't matter. So we appreciate you, the listener. We appreciate you, the commenter, the fan. We would not be here without you guys, so appreciate it. Like, subscribe, share, and follow us on all social media platforms. Follow me, Jeremy Betts, at the Betts93 on X. I think my Instagram is the same handle, and you can follow me there if you want to as well. I don't do much on Instagram. I'm trying to do a little bit more football content, but you can follow me there as well. And, I do the Steelers Fix podcast. I do the Draft Dynasty podcast. I do this podcast, and I also am a part of the Let's Ride podcast on Fridays with Jeff Hartman for the All Bets Are Off segment. And I appreciate those who listen and give feedback and are a part of all of the different groups here at Steel Curtain Network. That does it for the housekeeping. If you can't tell, I'm by myself tonight. It's going to be fun, though. I really wanted to focus in on your questions, so let's get those in here. If you have questions for me about training camp, about TJ Watt's new deal, about potential moves that could be coming up, if you want to talk about next year's draft, if you want to talk about, players to watch or position groups to look at for training camp, that's what we're here for tonight, and it's going to be a lot of fun. If you missed the live show, you can obviously check this out wherever you get your podcasts. It's on Apple Podcasts, it's on Spotify, and you can check it out wherever, because we want to be available for you and get you the content that you are looking for. The Pittsburgh Steelers have been busy. TJ Watt is newly extended with the team, and I think that as fans, we're kind of torn and divided on this way more than I thought we would be. Throughout the lead up to the signing, there was a lot of anxiety in Steeler Nation about whether the Steelers should even do it. And I thought there might have been a time this offseason where you could entertain the thought of trading TJ Watt, but after you sign Aaron Rodgers and after you make the next few moves that the Pittsburgh Steelers have done, it didn't make sense anymore. You lost out on the best market value you could get for him. You didn't have much leverage as an organization other than the fact that you had him under contract for this season, and you could say, we can always franchise tag you after this year. Other than that, he kind of had everything going for him, and other teams would know that as well. And so you probably don't get the best deal out of a TJ Watt trade if you tried to trade him now. If you were going to trade him, it should have been done before the draft, or it should have been done pretty close after the draft, pretty soon after the draft, so you can maximize the value that you could get in the upcoming year. Now it was a desperation game if that's the direction you ended up having to go, and you weren't going to get the value that you needed for TJ Watt. And this, for anybody talking about the big money part of this deal. And I understand it's an investment, and it's an investment in an older player coming off of his worst season since his rookie year. But to me, that's totally fine. And when you look at the percentage of the cap they're spending on him, it's less than the last time they gave him a NFL leading or an NFL record extension. It is um, something that they can handle. The cap's going to go up another $15 million or so next year, and it's just going to keep going up. So the Steelers can fit this in. I mean, as soon as next year, this deal looks fantastic money wise for the Steelers. There's going to be some other players that are going to get bigger contracts than TJ Watt now, with Micah Parsons coming up, and maybe Aiden Hutchinson. I don't know if that's exactly the same ballpark, because he's proven less and he's younger in a different demographic than Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. So we'll see if that plays into it, but I don't know. The Steelers made the right move, is what I'm trying to get at here. They made the right move by retaining TJ Watt, extending TJ Watt, and getting him in the twilight of his career. I think that he's going to put together Pro Bowl caliber seasons, at least 3 of these 4 years, and maybe all 4. There's a chance he's an all-pro again this next year. I really believe that. 15 plus sacks should be the expectation for him, I believe. And I think that the Steelers made the right move, and he being on this team was the only way the Steelers get close to a championship, probably this year or next year or the year after, with whatever quarterback they end up going with afterwards. So, all right, that's enough about the TJ Watt extension. You got my take on it. If you have questions about it, though, we will definitely talk about it. First, let's get to some questions in the chat. I'm trying to load it. It's being a little slow today. Okay, so Youngin says, "Yo, Bets, what's with the C behind you? First letter of the name of your sugar mama?" No, it's not. It is my daughter's initial. Actually, I have to do this from her room every now and then because our house is in chaos from a remodel that we're doing. So I get the whatever open space is available to me. So this is my daughter's room, hence the pink couch thing over here, and the bed over here, and then the C for my little one. So not the greatest backdrop, but it'll have to do while I figure this house out. Let's see here. What else we got? Any other questions? Come on, people. I need some questions tonight. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Steeler Chick 46 says, "How will offensive line look?" This is the question of the offseason. It has to be the priority in the minds of fans, because if anything works out this year on the offensive side of the ball, and probably as a team as well, it's going to be because of the trenches, and specifically on the offensive side of the ball, whether this young group of guys can gel and whether they can fill the roles that they are now locked into in a beyond serviceable way. This can't just be a mediocre offensive line. With what the Steelers have poured into it from a draft capital standpoint, and also free agency with Isaac Seumalo, what they've tried to build here is a young, dynamic offensive line. And now that Dan Moore Jr. is out the door and Broderick Jones steps into left tackle, it is so key for him to work out. Troy Fautanu on the right-hand side. We kind of gloss over him because Broderick Jones is such a question mark, right? The injury history with Fautanu should scare us, and we should be a little nervous about that. But if he gets on the field, I think he's going to be just fine. So if he stays healthy and Broderick Jones can play, then I think this offensive line looks really good, because I'm sold on this interior. I really am. Even if Mason McCormick is the day one starter this year again, I think that year 2, the type of player he is, the type of offense that the Steelers want to run, I think he will be just fine. So if I'm predicting, I'm pretty bullish on the offensive line being good, being a top half of the league unit, probably early in the year, and maybe pushing towards a top 10 unit by the end of the year. And if that is the case, this offense can do what it wants to do: run the football, play action, get the ball out quickly, pass protect enough in big moments for Aaron Rodgers to get to work. I think they will be just fine. All right, let's see here. Trying to see if I can get some of these to pop up. Um, okay, I don't see any more questions yet, but let's see. Young and Young and wood burning. Come on now, Betsy, just being quiet, but I like it. My your killer, and I can't wait for your fantasy go tos. Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna hit those fantasy stuff all this year. And if you're following the Draft Dynasty podcast, that's where we're gonna get into even more deep dive stuff. Oh, a great question from Steeler Chick 46. Great questions here. Let's get some more in. Who is on the hot seat to get cut? This this is a very intriguing conversation because when I look across this roster, I start to look at the the deepest position groups, right? Obviously that's wide receiver and um, offensive line, defensive line, and then like the cornerback position, those types of things. Those are all groups that I think that the Steelers are going to. Sorry, my somebody's trying to push their way into the room here, but these are all position groups that the Steelers have a lot of people in, right? And that they need to whittle these position groups down. So, so if I had to pick from a group here, those would be the ones that I'm looking at. So along the offensive line, and bear with me while I pull up the projected starting groups. But along the offensive line, some of these backup guys that are the primary dudes behind people like Spencer Anderson is probably the first interior guy off the line, right? And then I think of Cook, and forgive me, his name's escaping me right now, but we're going to NFL depth charts right now, so I'm trying to get there. That's the Bills Steelers. Okay, just want to make sure I've got all the names here. All right, so Spencer Anderson is like the primary backup on the left guard. Dylan Cook, that's who it is. My apologies. Dylan Cook. These are like the primary backups, right? Max Sharping at right guard, and then Calvin Anderson at right tackle. I don't know about these guys, right? There is a chance that the Steelers make a move here, and if they do, then a lot of these guys start feeling it, feeling the heat on their jobs. I think I would look at a guy like Sharping, who's been bouncing around between teams, and I would say that he is definitely on the hot seat. And if they like some of the younger guys here, if they like what Nick Broker can do, if they like what they're going to get from like JJ Galbraith, right? Or I'm sorry, not Galbraith. Gareth Warren. That's who I'm trying to talk about here. If a guy like Gareth Warren really shows out as an undrafted rookie here, then there's a chance that he's a guy who could push one of these guys for a roster spot. He's got the size, he's got the bulk, he's got the talent. He just played in a small school. He didn't get a lot of the opportunity. So could a Gareth Warren make this team, right? Could he get a chance? And if he does, who does that push out, right? Does that push out Dylan Cook? Um, does that push out Calvin Anderson, one of those tackles? It could. So maybe that's a guy those are the guys that I'm looking at there. And then on the defensive side, let's look at the cornerback room because here's a guy that's been hanging around and hanging around and hanging around that I just don't think makes this roster again. And it's James Pierre. I think that he doesn't make this roster. And he's been a guy that the Steelers have relied on as significant depth behind some of the starters here. But just look at this room, right? You've got Dante Kent that you spent a draft pick on. You've got Jalen Ramsey now in the fold. You've got Beanie Bishop Jr. You've got Darius Slay, Corey Trice. I mean, Brandon Eccles you bring in from the New York Jets through free agency. James Pierre, I think he's on his way out. So he would be the guy that maybe I'm looking at as really on the hot seat. I just don't see any of the projected starters, Steeler Chick, getting the boot, right? I don't. Juan Thornhill is like a new starter at safety probably this year. I think that he starts, and I think that he has a role on this defense, even if they do bring in another safety. So And right now they've kind of got Dante Kent penciled in for some special teams work. He's going to knock out one of these guys, one of these veterans. So that would be something that I'm looking for. Um, let's see. Okay, I had a question here. Okay, Jamie Carlo asked me to predict the starting lineup for both sides of the ball. This is fun. Okay, so let's do this. Let's start at the quarterback position here, and it's Aaron Rodgers, right? He's going to be the day one starter. Along the offensive line, obviously you've got Broderick Jones at left tackle, left guard. You're gonna play Isaac Sayamalu at center. Zach Frazier, Ryan McCollum. I think, or I'm sorry, not Ryan McCollum. Did I say that earlier? Ryan McCollum. I meant Mason McCormick. Ryan McCollum is the backup center. If I said that before, I apologize. Mason McCormick is who I'm trying to talk about here. Mason McCormick, I like on this interior. I think that he's just fine as a fourth round pick going into his second year. I would expect him to be the day one starter there. Troy Fautanu at right tackle. And then when it comes to the tight ends, okay, Pat Fryermuth's the starter. Okay, when they have one tight end on the field, in most cases, I think it's going to be Pat Fryermuth. Johnny Smith had a great year for Miami last year. He's not as talented as Pat Fryermuth. He's a role player, and the Steelers are going to use him in a specific role. He's going to have a big role in Pittsburgh, but it's a very specific role. He is not the do-it-all tight end that Pat Fryermuth is. And then Darnell Washington obviously gets a lot of the blocking acumen, or has the blocking acumen, so he's going to get a lot of those reps. So I think Fryermuth is the starter. Okay, this is the fun one, okay? Throughout camp here, I'm going to go ahead and predict that the guy that they run out onto the field week one with the starters is Caleb Johnson at running back. And maybe I'm looking at this wrong, because I could see like them just giving the nod to the veteran as the starter week one, and then maybe he's out there for the first snap, and then they go back to whatever they want to do because he's the veteran. But I think let's go with this. If by starter we mean who's going to play the most snaps in week one, I think Caleb Johnson's going to have established himself in this locker room on this team already as the premier back on the roster. Jaylen Warren's a good back. He's not a premier back, and I think Caleb Johnson has a chance to be. So Caleb Johnson handles the starter duties there. At wide receiver, it's DK Metcalf. I think you're going to give a start to Calvin Austin III in the slot. And then on the right side, man, I don't know. I would love to say Roman Wilson, but I don't know. It might just be Robert Woods as it sits here today. I would still love for them to upgrade here on a multi-year deal for somebody. But as it stands, I think if I'm being bold, okay, let me be bold here. I'm going to be bold, and I'm going to say that the Steelers make a move at receiver, and that move is to bring in Romeo Doubs at wide receiver, and he would be the starting Z receiver for week one of the regular season. So I'll make that as my bold prediction, if you will, for the starting group. And then on defense, the three guys in the middle, Cam Hayward, Keanu Benton, and Derek Harmon. Those guys are pretty much set. Obviously, TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith on the edge. Obviously, Patrick Queen and not Roman Wilson, Peyton Wilson at inside linebacker. And then in starter packages, okay, when you only have two corners on the field in base defense, two corners on the field and two safeties, then I think that the player that is left off the field is Jalen Ramsey. I think that Joey Porter Jr. and Darius Slay are probably the starting outside corners. And, Jalen Ramsey probably plays mostly nickel, and they're going to be in nickel a lot. So, he's a starter for all intents and purposes. But if they're in two cornerbacks spots, I think he's either playing like a safety role as like a third safety or something like that, or he's playing in the nickel or he's not on the field, excuse me. And that's Juan Thornhill out there and Deshaun Elliott at safety. So I think Ramsey's the first one off, but he's also the first one on when you move to 3 and 4 corners. That would be my prediction for the starters. I think Cameron Johnston wins the punter job. That's what they brought him in for. Corliss Waitman was really good last year, but sorry, Cameron Johnston was brought in as a field flipper, and I think he's going to do that. Chris Boswell, obviously. Christian Kuntz wins the job again. And then the return game, if you want to even there. I think Dante great chance to be one of the return men, like we talked about already. And then Calvin Austin the third, obviously on punts. He took one back for a touchdown last year. He is dynamic. He's going to get cracks at that for sure. Let's see here if I can find another question before we go to break. Okay, great question. The Black and Gold Standard podcast asks, do you think the Steelers will reward Calvin Austin III a new contract in training camp? I don't think so. I'm going to say a big fat no on that. I think that this room is going to get overhauled again next year. I think that Roman Wilson will slide in as the heir apparent to Calvin Austin. These guys are not at that level, right, where we're talking about heir apparents, but Roman Wilson slots in, no pun intended, in the slot, in the as the like the flanker, the slot wide receiver. When Calvin Austin leaves, and then you bring in another outside guy. So if Romeo Dobbs is here, maybe you draft a wide receiver as kind of like your inside outside guy, and Roman Wilson can be more of just an inside guy. So I that's how I kind of see it playing out. But I don't think Calvin Austin III gets a new contract in camp this year. I really don't. All right. We're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere on the live show. We will be right back. If you're listening on audio, just a few quick ads here, and we will be back here on the Steelers Sunday Night Q&A. All right, welcome back to the Steelers Sunday Night Q&A. Jeremy Betts here with you, breaking down some training camp questions. We had some good questions to start this thing out. We're going to jump into a couple more here to finish out the show. We appreciate all your questions. Keep them coming. I've got one from Mark Cunningham. JB, is there anyone in camp to challenge McCormick for the starting right guard job? This is a great question. I don't think necessarily there is a job on the line, 2 dogs, 1 bone type contest going on here. But McCormick doesn't take a step, then obviously one of the veterans could take that place. Max Sharping is like the veteran guy that can give you replacement level play at guard. But you know what? Mason McCormick proved that he can give you a little bit more than replacement level play last year. So nobody on the roster right now is challenging McCormick for the starting guard spot. I don't believe. Gareth Warren's going to play outside. The other undrafted free agent that is on the team, Aiden Williams, at guard, I don't think so. And I don't think anybody further down the list is making any moves there either. So, Mark, I think it's McCormick's job, the way that they've brought this in. So, okay. Pickens, you big dummy. I love that handle. That's a great handle. Pickens, you big dummy. Do you think the D-line is going to improve as much as I think it will? When you say improve, I think that there is a specific facet of the game that they will improve tremendously this year over the course of the full season, not just for a portion of it. And I think that's the run defense. This defensive line was already, even with Larry Ogunjobi in and out of the lineup and Keanu Benton having a down year, this defensive line was pushing pockets, getting to the passer. They were disruptive. They were annoying for opposing offenses. They were just always a presence. They were the highest rated defensive line in football last year, even above the Philadelphia Eagles for most of the year by places like PFF and what have you there. So, we love PFF when they give the Steelers their due credit, I think. We don't love them so much when they don't, but I think it was very much in line with the type of play we saw from them for like 15 of 17 games last year. And the 16th and 17th games being those Ravens games against the run. So I think that the defensive line is going to be extremely solid this year. That 3-man rotation plus your first guy off is like what, Isaiah Loudermilk or Y.A. Black or Logan Lee. Daniel Ekawale as well. We don't talk about him a lot because he's kind of listed further down the projected depth charts, but he was brought in by the Steelers fairly early in the free agency process, right? To be a part of this defensive line. So, and a bunch of these guys, that's what they're known for, is run defense. Y.A. Black was brought here for run defense. Derek Harmon was the most dynamic pass rushing defensive lineman in the draft. And he was also maybe the best run stopping defensive tackle in the draft outside of Kenneth Grant. So if you think that Derek Harmon's not a good run stopper, that's just a wrong thought process based on how he played in at Oregon and the type of season he finished up at Michigan State before transferring over to Oregon. So I think that they're going to improve a lot in that specific area, and I think they're going to maintain their ability to get after the passer and make things easier for the edge rush guys. Let's see. Brian Mizwa. Brian, a regular listener here, so thanks, Brian, for the question. How many games will Johnson take to take over full-time workhorse running back? I'd say midseason at worst. I don't see Warren as every down back. We talked about that a little bit at the beginning of the show. I think that Caleb Johnson kind of establishes that from the beginning that he is the workhorse type. I don't think he's going to get a workhorse load this year because Jaylen Warren is so good in situational ball and coming in as like a change-up back. They're going to use him a lot in that regard. I think that you're going to see, based on the opponent in any given week, 50 to 60% snaps going Caleb Johnson's way, and similar thing for Jaylen Warren. And if they both stay healthy, Kenneth Gainwell is going to get some chunk of change of that. So let's just break it down this way. Say Caleb Johnson gets on season average 50% of the carries, and Jaylen Warren gets like 35%, and then Kenneth Gainwell gets 15%. I think that that's a very fair and very worthwhile divvying of the backfield duties, if you will. But yeah, I just don't think, Brian, it's going to take that long for Caleb Johnson to be considered the guy in that backfield. I already do, honestly. So this is a good question, staying with the running backs from TD Tom Dessenberger. Tom, thank you for the question. Who makes the running back room and how many do we roster? I think you roster 3 guys, and there's the fourth guy on the practice squad that can be called up, and that's probably Trey Sermon. I don't think Cordero Patterson makes this team this year. Dante Kent is a better returner probably at this stage of his career. Not overall, but because Cordero Patterson obviously is one of the best all time. But, Dante Kent was brought in for some of that role. And I think that Cordero Patterson is not on this team by the time it's all said and done. So Trey Sermon probably makes the practice squad, and Kenneth Gainwell is the third running back, and those 3 make the 53-man roster. So that's my prediction there. Harvey brings up that Skylar Thompson. Harvey Stone says Skylar Thompson is definitely on the hot seat. Yeah. I mean, I don't consider his seat hot because I just don't think he has a seat, man. Maybe he steps in or maybe he's given QB3 reps right away because Will Howard is a rookie. And you're not going to give Will Howard the snaps over Skylar Thompson right away, but Skylar Thompson doesn't make this team, man. And Will Howard's spot is pretty secure, I think, unless he's just really bad. Okay. Next question here from the Black and Gold Standard podcast. Again, thanks, guys. Would you sign Amari Cooper? I would. I think I would sign him like a week into training camp, 2 weeks into training camp, if it looks like I'm not getting 2 weeks or 3 weeks into training camp, if it looks like I'm not getting a bite at one of these deep wide receiver rooms from a trade perspective. So I would do that. You don't need him to be your wide receiver 1. The Bills probably brought him in to kind of be that last year, and it didn't work. So they just utilized him in role play type stuff. The Steelers could just get him in here, and he could be like if Robert Woods is 60% a good receiver now, Amari Cooper can probably give you 75% of a good receiver on the outside, and that's an upgrade. So that would be definitely possible, and I would do that. John asks, will Sebastian Castro be given every opportunity to make the team? I think so. I think that he will be given plenty of looks. I mean, you just lost the best safety in your room, debatably. after last year, where Deshaun Elliott was probably the better player. But Minka Fitzpatrick is no longer there. Over the course of his career in Pittsburgh, he's easily the best safety that they've had. But Castro was a great safety in college. And just, I mean, safeties are not a valuable position. It's so hugely devalued. Look at the names on the free agent market. They just don't have a lot of value. They are the least valuable position group when it comes to free agent money in the league. That is a full-time starting position and not a specialist position. Okay. So Castro gets an opportunity just based on the sole fact that the Steelers are going to be looking for bargain bin type assets in that room, and he can be that. So when you look at the safety depth, right? It's Thornhill, it's Deshaun Elliott, it's Miles Killebrew, and then it's wide open. It's Castro and Quindell Johnson, who played in San Francisco in 2025 or in 2024. I don't think that precludes Sebastian Castro from getting looks, and big time looks at the safety room. In fact, I would be shocked if he doesn't play above Quindell Johnson, and I would also be shocked if the Steelers don't address this position group at some point here. So, okay, and the caveat to your question, I guess more so, is it his job to lose before they look elsewhere if he doesn't play well? Maybe. That's probably the better way to look at it. Like, is he kind of established in there as like the fourth guy off the bench? And I've always considered him more of like a box type safety or a nickel type guy. So maybe that's more his role. Hey Kat, welcome to the show. But I don't think that he precludes them at all in any way, shape, or form, whether he establishes himself as a good player or not, from going out and getting another safety. You can always use that player on special teams. You can always use Castro on special teams and have somebody else be your like rotational third safety in that room. And Jalen Ramsey might be that guy as well. I mean, honestly. So I think his role is pretty pronounced. He'd be the fourth safety at best. And at worst, he's a special teams contributor or a practice squad guy. And that may be just fine. A guy you can call up at some point. Does Loudermilk make the 53? Afton Ford asks that question. That is a great question. I don't know if he does. And I was just talking about it. Ekawale is here. Daniel Ekawale. Dean Lowry. We didn't get a chance to see Dean Lowry last year, really. And YA Black they just brought in. So yeah, I don't know if he makes this roster. The Steelers like him. He's a pretty good run defender. So, and they usually keep like 8 guys on the defensive line, I think. 7 or 8. So I think he'll have a shot, but if I predict it right now, I'm going to say no. Archie Wilson, my podcast partner on the Draft Dynasty podcast at times, he asked, what training camp battles are you most excited for? I'm most excited for this running back one. And I'm most excited to see what Will Howard does in a battle, quote unquote, with Mason Rudolph for his share of the snaps. Can Will Howard show that he belongs in that facet and make the Steelers think about him in a more than just a depth piece for 2025 view, right? Or in a trial for the backup spot next year when they draft somebody. So those are the ones that come to the top of my head. I just this might be a cop out, but because it's not really a battle, but I want to see how this defense rotates the guys in the secondary. That's going to be fascinating. They can be so multiple without having a star at safety that they have to have on the field at all times, like they did with Minka. So I think that the versatility that they're going to have, the in and out of guys, is going to be a lot of fun. So that's something I'm looking forward to. I guess the Broderick Jones versus himself battle, if you want to go there, and even the Broderick Jones versus Troy Fautanu, who's the better tackle, because Fautanu was taken after the Steelers took Broderick Jones in their respective drafts, specifically. But that's a battle, a fun one there. If I'm missing anything big, let me know. But can we say Ooh, how about not a battle, but like how do these guys develop and take their next step? In the case of Nick Herbig and Jack Sawyer as a rookie, what type of role does he fill? That back and forth there, that's going to be fantastic. Um, and then I'm interested to see what Cole Holcomb looks like too, fighting off some of like a guy like Malik Harrison and Mark Robinson and Carson Bruner, right? Those four guys, how do they work into the linebacker room? Could Cole Holcomb be a cut candidate? We didn't talk about him earlier, but could he be coming off the injuries and not having a chance to have played really the last two seasons? Is he somebody that, or the season and a half, I guess, is he somebody that actually works his way into this group? So let's see. So I mentioned James Pierre as being a cut candidate. Mark Cunningham says, "Oh, I disagree, JB, about Pierre. Danny Smith loves him as a gunner. Yes, that's true. Um, but at some point, you gotta have good players for your defense. And I just don't know. I think that he's on the hot seat. I really do. But I could be wrong. I really could be. It is something to watch. See if we've got any more questions. Afton asked, "Does Patterson stick around?" I just don't think so. I think that his days are numbered severely. Um, so yeah, that's. Let's see. We've got Believers on here. Hey, Believers, how you doing? Hey, Bets, what are the chances we will upgrade the safety position? Is there anyone you would target, or are they happy with Thornhill and Elliott? I think they're fine with Thornhill and Elliott, but I would target Justin Blackman. I wouldn't mind Justin Simmons either, but Blackman's younger. I think Blackman has more upside, and I just think that the overall desire of the Steelers for that position group would probably be to have a guy who can play deep and in the box and has some youth to him. So Blackman would fit that more for me. And I think that they should upgrade the safety position. I don't know if they will. Let's see here. Steeler Chicks 46. Will Connor Hayward make the team? This is a good one. He's probably on the hot seat. Good call. Should have had him on my hot seat list there at the top. I'm gonna say he does. Because I don't think DJ Thomas Jones, as fun of a story as that would be for Steelers fans, I don't think that works. I don't think JJ Galbraith is going to do anything. So, yeah, Connor Hayward's probably here still. His brother's on the team. Why not? Why not keep it going with the Hayward bros and have that extra brotherly chemistry on the roster? So, let's see here. Let's do one more question here from Mark. Mark Tobin, thanks for the question. Who else are they going to get at receiver? I mentioned Romeo Doubs. I think that would be fun. They're not going to go out and get Terry McLaurin. You can't pay two receivers $30+ million a year and sign all the guys that they've signed on defense, right? But, some other guys, like Jawan Jennings, man, that would be fantastic. That's the pipe dream. Jawan Jennings is the pipe dream. Lock in Jennings at a Deontay Johnson price tag for the next 3 years. Excuse me. For the next 3 years, and that would be awesome. Pair him with DK Metcalf for the long haul. Get a rookie quarterback, two solid receivers to work with right off the bat. Go draft another one next year. Have Roman Wilson and have DK Metcalf and Jawan Jennings and Roman Wilson kind of be your core and add to that, right? Moving forward for a young guy. That would be the pipe dream pickup. It might not be a pipe dream, actually. That would be the dream scenario pickup. Can they make it work? Are the 49ers going to be willing to do anything? Probably not, because of how thin they are at receiver. So don't get your hopes up, Steeler Nation, but that would be the dream. So, all right, Yins. That's all the time I've got for tonight. So I apologize for missing any other questions that you guys have in here. I saw a couple more, but I appreciate the interaction. It was a lot of fun. It's always fun to just dive into these questions and answer them as quickly as possible and get to as many as possible. We need to do that every now and then, because sometimes, like a couple weeks ago when I had Zachary Smith on, we got to a few questions, but we got to talk and I got to ask him some questions, like his take on some things. So appreciate you guys sticking with it here. and sticking with me. And you guys all have a fantastic rest of your Sunday night. If you listen to this afterwards, say on your drive to work in the morning, I'd appreciate it. Again, like, subscribe on YouTube, share, and we will keep it rolling here on the Steel Curtain Network with all the content you could ask for heading into training camp. The Training Camp Confidential on steelcurtainnetwork.com starts this week. We are going to have more content than you can handle. Stay tuned. I'm writing like 5 articles over the course of the next few weeks, getting us into and fully dived in to the training camp experience for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Coach KT Smith is going to be there for some of this. We're going to have a lot of content. So stay tuned to Steel Curtain Network for that. Again, give me a follow on X at the Bets93. I've rambled on long enough. That's going to do it for me here on the Steelers Q&A. Talk to you next time.
Ready, no